Takes a minute to get going there. All right. Dude,
We are live.
that might have to be the intentional start every time since I did that the first.
I actually like it.
Four or five times we launched this bad boy. But Chris, how are things, man? Memorial weekend. I know you got a bunch of stuff going on at the house. I was out running the roads today. Bought my son a sandbox. Pretty pumped about that.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, man. He was in that bad boy today.
Yeah.
And,
is it one of those like plastic ones that's like shaped like a turtle or something like that?
It's a crab. Yeah, it's a crab.
Yeah.
We thought about we looked at some different ones. They got like the wooden ones with a canopy, and like we were like, nah, dude. Like he's a year old. He'll be in there for a couple years. $40 on the marketplace on Facebook. Good to go. And
that's the way you do it.
The family that had it before us used it as a pool, so it's like spit. It's like spit shine clean. They never even put sand in it. So anyway.
Nice.
Yeah, pumped about that. He was in it today already, loving it, living the dream, eating sand, dumping it on his head.
Yeah.
Killing it out there, dude. So yeah, it was good to go. What about you this weekend with the fam? Anything?
Well, we've been kind of laying low a little bit. Still finishing up on housework and renovations. I mentioned it. I don't know if this kind of parlays into the the first question you have going here, but I did, for some odd reason, decided to start a juice cleanse this weekend of all weekends.
Man.
I decided to do it's a 10-day juice cleanse, and I don't know if anybody out there has watched the video, but it's like Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead or something like that. It's a documentary, and it's about this guy who goes on like a juice cleanse diet for 60 days. And he drops like 100 and some odd pounds in 60 days or whatever, just drinking this juice. So of course, I'm like, well, I could shed a few pounds. I'll give it a shot.
Sure.
So starting with 10 days, and I'm on day 2 right now, but man, it's been killing me. Like we took the kids to the park earlier today, and you could smell like everybody was out barbecuing and like having like all the food that I love so dearly. And it's been a little difficult.
So here we go. It's the perfect parlay into our opening question that we always start with something silly and goofy to kind of get us rolling a little bit, get people a chance to jump in and start listening and watching. And you had no idea that I was going to ask this question, but
never do.
Do you have a favorite smell?
So you mean just not food, like it could be anything.
So here's the deal. This is why this comes up. So like you hit it right on the head. Today is like a prime example of a lot of things that people would be like, oh, that's awesome. You got cut grass out there. You got the fresh air. You've got the grills fired up. I smelled someone getting ready to light up the charcoal briquettes, which has a very distinct smell versus like a meat on a gas grill or propane tank or whatever like that. Last couple of days there's been some rain outside. A cool day, a warm day, some rain going. Not one of my favorites. My wife bought the Green Gobbler vinegar weed killer. Bro, ooh. I was spraying it and I got like a waft like in my face and I almost fell on the ground. It was so strong. And I like vinegar. Like I put that on some different food and stuff like that. But it was so intense and so strong right in my face. So anyway, do you have a favorite? Do you have a go-to that's like real nostalgic? Maybe it takes you back to something that you just love how it smells. It's kind of a deep question. You got to go.
This is a deep, because there's a lot. I mean, I've been in like I love the smell of some basements. Like that musty smell for some reason. I like the smell of gasoline.
Okay, yeah, gasoline. That was another one that was gasoline. On the list.
But I think if I had to pick a top one, I would say like the campfire smell. But it's only like when fall is like rolling in, like the smell of like burning leaves and the fall type of feel and environment and weather. That's like, it doesn't get any better than that because I know football's coming.
So it's interesting. So this is a weird thing for me, dude. Like I like bonfires. I like camping. But I can't stand how you smell after. Like, dude, you've got it in you. You go back to the tent or you go back to your sleeping bag or your little camper or your cabin or wherever it is that you're at. And you just reek like a burnt sausage for like 3 days, dude. And I can't handle it. I can't handle how strong of a smell that is after the fact. Like while it's going on, while you're partaking, I'm all for it. But dude, I don't know, man.
It lingers. It definitely lingers. It attaches to you. You become one with the smell.
So I'm gonna do my best Kramer.
Oh boy.
It's the beach, man. My favorite smell is the beach. And I think the beach has a distinct smell. The water coming off of the wind blowing that water smell up, the sand you're out there in the sunshine. If you can mix in a little sunscreen or something like that, that just kind of all mixes in there together.
Yeah.
We talked about Seinfeld before. Was that on the thumbs up list or the thumbs down?
That was on the thumbs up list for sure.
So,
Seinfeld's gotten me through some tough times without cable. So
obviously Kramer had the beach smell that Calvin Klein stole from him, right? So I don't know if I would ever bottle it and spray it on me, but I love that smell of rolling up to the beach and being out there for a day. And sometimes you can get that campfire incorporated into that. So there was a lot of good smells today. Like I said, I was running around a little bit, got that sandbox that I felt like I was doing a damn strongest man competition with the bags of sand from my car, like out to the backyard. I'm like sore already. I had to do it a whopping 4 times, right? That kind of tells you how I came inside, I laid on the couch. I'm like, I had one task today and I'm just dead. And my wife was like, I think that's called getting old. I think that's what that is. So
that's what happens.
Anyway, man, solid day. Hope everybody's enjoying the Memorial Day festivities, and thanks to all those out there who have served and everything like that, and the people who have fallen. That's what the day is all about. So again, it turns into just a celebration and a fun day for a lot of us, but there's a lot of people out there who have family members who are in the military that are no longer with us because of that. So I think we'd be remiss if we didn't at least mention that. We try not to get too sappy on here, but that's why the day is what it is. So hope everybody remembers that and has a good Memorial Day as we get ready to wrap up this long weekend here. So that's kind of our fun intro. And our second topic is going to be a little bit fun as well. And this is, Chris, you brought this up to me after we finished the podcast last week. I don't know if you were I think you were prompted by it because you were watching playoff hockey. Is that right? Or something had happened?
It's something that I think I've been thinking about it for a while. Just, like wanting to the off season is, with college football. The college football off season can be brutal. I'm looking for other things to fill my time.
Let's just throw this up. I'm interrupting for people who are listening on the pod that you can't see me, but I put up a stop finger for Chris. We have a person on YouTube who wants to jump in here. Chocolate chip cookies baking in the ball. Very specific.
Hey, okay.
Very specific, very solid smell. I'll piggyback off of that. How about those roasted nuts in the ball?
Yeah, the nuts. Those are the ones
where you damn near get a cavity just for walking by there. Or the Cinnabon stand, dude. All right, we could keep going on and on with this, but I like that input. So we'll throw that in there. So anyway, I'll put up the ticker as Chris is explaining too. Chris needs a new rooting interest. He's looking for something. He's explaining why, and we're going to try to get to the bottom of how the hell you can do that and what's acceptable and what's not. So yeah, where did this manifest itself at, and what are your thoughts on this now? Because I've never really, I'm a hometown guy through and through. Yeah. It's the Wings, it's the Pistons, it's the Tigers, it's the Lions, unfortunately, and it's the Michigan sports. That's all I've ever really been into. You and I talked a little bit about how I've had some favorite players growing up, and that's kind of made me like a lukewarm, distant fan. Allen Iverson was my favorite basketball player, so now I kind of find myself being semi-interested in the Sixers. Not really, but right now, the Sixers and the Wizards are playing in the playoffs, and I want the Sixers to win. But I really don't care that much. So anyway, The floor is yours, Chris. Where are you at with this whole thing?
Well, I don't know what prompted it or what brought it on, but I was thinking about it's a long off season, waiting for Michigan football to come back, and I'm a college football guy, and then I really don't pay too much attention to any of the other sports that are out there, whether it be college sports, professional sports. And so I've been thinking, should I just latch on to the home teams? Should I just by default, start to maybe try to get interested in the Tigers and the Red Wings and God forbid the Lions, or based on the fact that I don't really feel at this point any connection to any of those teams, do I have the opportunity to look around, and if I do have that opportunity, what's the protocol? If you want to become a fan of a new team, what are the steps you need to go through? It would be, we talked about this before, it would probably be a bad look if I just hopped on and became a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, right? That would probably make a lot of eyes roll. So are there teams that are off limits? How does it work? I mean, I'm just looking for any sort of feedback because I'd like to start rooting for some other teams. So
a couple of the things we talked about were, I've always felt this way, and people can disagree or have different methods. I feel like personally, if you're going to latch onto a team, there has to be a reason. If you're in the bar and your obscure team is on the screen and you cheer for them and someone's like, why the hell do you like them? you have to have an answer.
Sure.
That's kind of where I've always come down on this question. For me, like I said, I'm just a hometown. I like all the Detroit teams. I like Michigan sports, and that's really it. Like I said, a couple vague rooting interests here and there from growing up, from uniforms that I've liked, or favorite players that I had, or video game usage, or drawing pictures. Like those are all things I did a lot as a kid. So I do have some other teams that I like a little bit, but at the end of the day, I want my Detroit teams to win, and I want Michigan sports to succeed. That's where I'm at. Those are the ones I'm emotionally invested in. Those are the ones that will have me, pissed off for a weekend or something if it doesn't go my way. So I asked you. I said, well, you've lived in a couple different places a little bit. Chicago being one where you had some roots for a while. Could you be a Bull? Could you be a Bulls, Blackhawks kind of guy? And I've lived in the South, but there wasn't like a city that I lived in, like I lived in South Carolina. They don't have any professional teams actually.
Right.
So like Clemson was real big there. Obviously the Gamecocks were big there. Some people latched onto the Panthers and the NFL. I was there working and living for 7 or 8 years, and I still was a hometown person. I never cared about the rest. So I find this interesting because you're just,
I'm a blank slate.
You're a free agent, bro. Like
I am a free agent fan.
You're out there looking for something. So those were some of the lists. So those were some of the things I came up with. Do you have an attachment to a city from your past for any reason? Like maybe your family was originally from there. Maybe your grandpa was lived in some other city for a while and you visited him when you were a kid. Like my wife is from upstate New York. We talked about this too.
Oh, right.
I really don't want to subject my son to being a Lions fan. I really don't want to do that. So I'm thinking about him. I'm thinking about buying him some Bills gear, man. The Bills are a good team right now. They got a exciting young quarterback in Josh Allen. They play a fun brand of defense. They look to be kind of, that new team in the AFC East, and as the Patriots kind of slide. So that's where I'm at with him. And I can say, oh, you just picked them because they were getting good when he was born. Well, that's part of it, but they have some things that are fun to watch and fun to cheer for. And my wife's family is from upstate New York. A lot of them are Buffalo fans, so it makes sense. Again, back to that bar question, Chris. Why the hell do you like them, dude? That's BS.
That would be weird. Like if somebody asked me that question, like, or why are you a Falcons fan? And if I were to say something like, well, a week ago I just decided that all of a sudden, right? I got to have a reason, and I guess maybe the fact that I've lived in different places, but I mean, like we were talking about offline, when this question first came up, like when I look at the classic Miami Dolphins logo, like that, there's some nostalgia there for me, right? It like reminds me of collecting cards as a kid and kind of like takes me back to a time when I see some of those, the throwback type uniforms. And so part of me is like, I don't know. Part of me feels sort of drawn to the Dolphins. I don't even know. I haven't paid attention to the Dolphins, so I can't tell you which direction they're headed. Maybe that's a good reason to hop on, is because of that background. But then they're also
up. Yeah, they're trending up with Tua, young quarterback, and good defense
there you go.
Is coming up a little bit. So yeah,
but at the same time, I do feel sort of an obligation, because I am a free agent right now, to just stick with the home teams. Just because I'm not a Lions fan, I've watched as many games as I can watch of the Detroit Lions. I know how things go. I know the Red Wings aren't doing too well right now. Tigers had a hell of a run not too long ago, and then it's sort of been, average for quite some time. And I just, I'm open to different ideas, and I don't want to necessarily settle on a home team just because I happen to live in Michigan.
Detroit is literally the worst sports city in America right now.
It's tough.
The 4 teams are so bad. 3 of them are in an active rebuild, and all 4 of them are in an active rebuild right now. The Pistons, the Lions, the Wings, and the Tigers are all at or near the very bottom of the entire league and working on the future, stockpiling draft picks and trying to find young talent. It's a tough time to, I'm a pretty big NBA guy. I like watching the pros. I'm watching the playoff basketball, quite often. Just about every night I'll catch at least one game. And being back in Michigan, when I was living in South Carolina, I couldn't do this, but being back in Michigan, you put on Fox Sports Detroit, which is now like Bally Sports or something like that. They switched that this past year, but like, I don't even want to watch the Pistons. I don't want to watch the Tigers. Like, it's no fun right now. And so, but at least I still do have my teams that I can check in on. And that's kind of where, you're trying to inject a little bit more of that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, diversify a little bit. Like I live and die by what happens with Michigan football in the fall. And then, outside of those 12 or 13 games, if in a normal year you happen to make the bowl game, there's not a lot else going on, And so at least for me as a fan right now, I'm not really paying attention to too much. So I'd like to, find a team. And I see we have some Bears fans in the comment section.
Yeah.
Go Bears. Bills never won a Super Bowl.
So the Bills have never won a Super Bowl. They went to, was it 3 or 4 in a row in the 90s and lost to the Cowboys twice and lost to the Redskins maybe. But anyway, yeah, I mean, they're up and coming right now. I do have some connections there, so I'm going to try to see if I can make my son a Bills fan. We'll see how that works out. But so let me ask you a couple of questions, then we'll get off of this and get to some Michigan stuff. So we've already mentioned Chicago. Any other areas of the country or cities that you have any sort of connection to, either you personally or like your family? Is that it? Or is it Chicago?
I mean, that's
rural
pretty,
mid-Michigan and Chicago.
That's it, man. That's it. Like most of my family was born and grew up and stayed in Michigan. Like I was kind of the exception to the rule where, lived out east for a minute, was in Washington, D.C. and then in Chicago. So lived at a couple different places. I know the Capitals were big when I was out in D.C. and everybody was excited about that, as far as hockey is concerned. But, I've been looking, man, I'm pulling up the rosters, like the NFL rosters, all the teams. I'm pulling up all the NBA teams. I'm pulling up all the NFL teams, the hockey teams, and I'm starting to compile a list here of potential candidates. And it might be one of those things where I just end up drawing a name out of a hat, because that would be a more interesting answer at the bar, right? How did you become a fan? Well, I drew a name out of a hat, and that's who it was. So here I am.
Let me see where you fall on this now. If you're going to try to adopt a new team, are you going to be one of these guys who has like a different team for each sport, or is it going to be like we said, is it going to be Cubs, Blackhawks, Bulls, Bears, because you're kind of a Chicago guy for a while there too?
Well, that's the question. Does it have to be that way, or
I don't know, man.
Maybe Blackhawks, maybe I go Dallas Cowboys in the NFL, because the Cowboys have been on my radar a little bit. I like that Deion Sanders era. I remember that as a kid. There's no shortage of options, that's for sure. I'm torn.
I just feel like, you'll be like that fat middle school kid who's like, yeah, like I like the Yankees and like the Nets,
the Lakers.
Like they're pretty much my favorite team since like last year. I'm like, bro, like I just can't stand people who do that. They just hop from team to team based on who's doing well. Like, listen, I embrace the suck when it comes to the Lions, dude. Like I know they blow. Like you said, the Tigers had a good run there. The Wings were amazing for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm just not a big hockey guy personally. I didn't play hockey growing up, so I don't have a big connection to that sport. Baseball, same kind of deal. I didn't play that until, I only played that until like middle school or something. Football and basketball have always been 1 and 2 for me. I'm invested. I will watch the Lions. I will watch the Pistons even when they're not good. I will still know about the roster makeups. I will still know about what's going on with them and what's happening in the front office. It would be great to have somebody worth cheering for. So I wonder if that factors in. You mentioned a little bit too, like the uniforms and the old players. Like when you think back to when you were a kid, did you have any favorite players from each league? So I'll give you mine. NBA growing up, it was Shaq first, which I have a Shaq shrine right here. My hand is backwards. Those are legitimately from when I was like 10 years old. I was obsessed with Shaq. He was, he's breaking backboards and stuff. The Magic uniforms were dope. I had a lot of Orlando Magic stuff. Then they got Penny Hardaway, and I liked them quite a bit. But then it was Allen Iverson. Grant Hill kind of faded in there a little bit too. Of course, he was a Pistons guy. But I was always a Pistons fan. Always hated Michael Jordan, to be honest with you, because he played for the Bulls, and the Bulls always beat the Pistons from when I was a kid. I was a tad bit too young to really remember the bad boy Pistons, like 89, 90. I was 5 and 6 years old. I remember having some gear, and my dad was a big Pistons fan, but I don't really remember watching them or being into it that much. For the Lions, for football, it was easy because Barry Sanders is my favorite player on the planet ever, and he was a Lion. So that I often wonder if he would have been my favorite player even if I lived somewhere else or liked another team. He was just so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
That one was really easy for me. Hockey, I just wasn't a big enough hockey fan to really latch onto any one player.
Yeah.
I liked the Wings. I really liked Steve Yzerman. I really liked Sergei Fedorov. I liked the goalies they had back in the day, Chris Osgood, Mike Vernon. But man, I just, I rattled off a couple very obscure players to you before. Pavel Bure and Teemu Selanne were like two of the fastest skaters in the NHL on like the video game. So I was like, oh, I don't even remember who Pavel Bure played for, and Selanne played for the Ducks, I think, or maybe the Sharks, one of the two. But anyway, hockey was always like the fourth sport for me by quite a bit. And then in baseball, it was Ken Griffey Jr. Man, I mean, he was the kid, man. I had some cards of his. I had some what are they called? Starting lineups of his, and he was just dope, man. He was young. He had the backwards hat. He just had his swing was so pretty. He was a lefty, so I could never imitate the swing. But that and baseball was a distant third. It was football, basketball way up here. I knew every player, all the jersey numbers for every team they played for. Baseball was like down here, and then hockey was even lower than that. So I'm soaking up time here so you could get your answers ready. Well, favorite player in basketball? Did you have one?
I didn't have one favorite player. I had a handful, like I talked about back in the day when, McGrady and Vince Carter were playing in Toronto. That I loved, that era. I remember that. Sean Kemp was a favorite.
The Raptors jersey too. You mentioned
the Raptors jersey was just sick with the big, the big Raptor on it. Like I like the big gaudy jerseys. Part of the reason why I like the old Vancouver teams, like when they had the big Grizzly on it and the teal color, Big Country Reeves. Like those are the guys. Even looking back at that Sacramento team when it was Weber and Vlade and Bobby Jackson and Bibby and all, like that team to me, that Sacramento team. I didn't get to watch. I mean, I think this was maybe even before I had cable, but watching them like play the Lakers and like, I think it was the Western Conference Finals and how epic those battles were. Man, I was a big fan of the Sacramento Kings. I don't know that I could be a Kings fan now though, because when am I going to catch their games? West Coast, and who the hell's playing a Kings game? So
for sure. So it is a fun topic, man. I've talked about this with my dad before. He's he's just like me. I mean, we're cut from the same cloth. We like all the hometown teams. He's, he just had his 60th birthday. So he's got 60 years in of being a piss poor Lions fan. You just, we just both suffer through it. We talk on the weekends and we watch football together. We're like, God, man, what are we ever going to see a Super Bowl run for the Lions ever? Like, is it even possible? So I've thought about before, can I just switch? Can I stop being a Lions fan and become a fan of another team? And I can't do it. I will never be a fan of another team. I like different players. And when you match up one random team with another random team, I can probably come up with a preference for some reason, but it's never going to be like it is with my hometown teams. Never.
Yeah. And I feel like it's going to go that way. And by the way, that's why I want to add to my inventory, because I'm always having my heart broken as a Michigan fan, so I'm not trying to like all of a sudden welcome in the Tigers or the Red Wings or add more pain. I'd like to that's part of the reason why I'm looking around is I want to experience, winning at a high level and some joy and, things like that.
I want to throw this up real quick because I think this is pretty neat. People who are on Twitter and follow recruiting pretty closely probably know this name. Hayes Fawcett does a lot of the edits for guys when they make their announcements and things like that. I've talked to Hayes a couple of times. Seems like a really nice kid. I think he's out of high school now. He started all this when he was in high school and got a lot of publicity and was getting commitment scoop and commitment information from big time prospects before any of the people in the industry were. So really cool. I don't know if he's still watching, but he jumped in here and threw this up that Walter Nolan will take a visit to Michigan June 18th through the 20th. That would be an official for the number one defensive tackle in the country.
Nice.
That's a step in the right direction. You try to bring as much talent to campus as you can because you never know what's going to happen. I would be shocked if he picks Michigan. I'll say that right now. But hey, if he's willing to come for an official visit, like this is funny because the same people who are probably like super, super jacked about this, Walter Nolan's coming, Michigan's got a shot, are the same ones that are saying that Will Johnson taking an official to USC means nothing. Like, every situation is different, but trust me, like I've covered recruiting for a long time. People taking official visits is not nothing. It's just not, because
Walter Nolan looks like the type of guy that as a Michigan fan, you always sit back and say like, that's an SEC guy that's going to Bama. Like he has the type of look, like as a Michigan fan, you wish you could reel in players like that. They're just difference makers. They're literally grown ass men.
He's a brick shit house, man. The guy looks
Yeah.
like he could play in the NFL like this weekend if he needed to. Yeah,
Yep.
like, cool. I mean, hopefully that visit sticks. Hopefully when he comes to Michigan, he sees things that he just didn't realize. Hopefully he bonds extremely well with the staff and the coaches and the other players and the fellow recruits and commits. And you never know, but I just wouldn't put much money on that happening. But we'll see. We will see. I mean, Michigan. It's not like Michigan never lands 5-star guys. They get one or two of them every handful of cycles. So we'll see how that plays out. Thanks for Hayes Fawcett for dropping by and checking out the live stream for a minute there. All right, let's get into some actual Michigan stuff. We're 20 some minutes in, and we're just now getting to our Michigan content, but that's all right. We are heading into the summer months a little bit. It's going to be a little thin around here. It's Memorial Day. We've been busy throughout the weekend. It is what it is. We'll take off with just a quick little article that you put up and some things, something that made the rounds on social media. Jim Harbaugh takes in a baseball game at Comerica Park. He's there with his dad, Jack, and his son, Jack. So it's amazing. As a person who's really close to my dad, and now I have a son of my own, like this is awesome. This is what, the summertime is about. Memorial weekend is about spending time with your family, spending time with your loved ones. And like, unfortunately, dude, it just, people often think that I'm being negative because I point out the shortcomings with Michigan football. No. When you see a picture of Jim Harbaugh and you take a shot at him for not beating Ohio State instead of just, taking this in for what it is, which is a really cool moment for a son, a father, and his own son, that's being negative. Taking a shot at Jim Harbaugh saying, like, if you'd spend more time figuring out how to beat Ohio State than he did at the ballpark, maybe he'd have something. Like,
yeah,
shut the hell up. And enjoy something pure here, which is a really polarizing guy in Jim Harbaugh, who's in the forefront of the media in Michigan, and he's out having fun with his family, man. Like this is a cool thing to see, and anybody who doesn't see it that way can pound sand and get out of my life. Just stop existing where I exist. That's what I would like to say. That's just ridiculous.
It's weird, but it's also that's the internet nowadays, right? Like if there's nothing you can do on the internet. Like even if put it this way, it doesn't matter what gets posted, what gets said. Inevitably, people will show up to the comment section to just turn it into a complete shit show. And that's what happened on this Twitter post that the Tigers put up. And it was just interesting to see that the Tigers actually clapped back at one fan who had said something like, he has as many wins over Ohio as the Tigers do, or something like that. And of course, the Tigers came back and said, well, at least neither one of us live in Ohio, which I thought, I mean, it's I won't call it friendly. It's banter on the internet, but it was, I thought it was pretty cool to see the Tigers kind of chime in and at least go to bat for Jim Harbaugh a little bit. And you're right. I mean, he's at the park. He's enjoying a game. It's, it's a long holiday weekend, and it's really cool to be able to do that with your father and your son and sort of have all those generations there together. And even though, we have issues with what's going on the football field, at the end of the day, by all accounts, he's still a good dude who just wants to, raise his kid right and go take in a baseball game, and, more power to him.
And Harbaugh's a big baseball guy, man. He's a big baseball dude, was a big time player as a kid and thought maybe he had a future in baseball, which I'm sure if he had pursued it, he probably could have had a future in baseball. Yeah. And he's done a lot of baseball stuff over the years since he's been at Michigan. I know he was in Oakland at one point, like coaching first base or something, if I remember correctly. Like he's done some different things with baseball.
And then he threw out that opening pitch for the Cubs game, I believe it was, and he wasn't playing around. Like he wound up, had the cleats, had the glove, looked the part, and I think he was trying to sling it.
Always takes his glove to the park, which I totally respect because I do the same type of thing. I want to catch a fly ball at some point. I actually when I was working at the Wolverine, I got a great shot of Harbaugh with a baseball bat. It was during a camp. I'm trying to think. This was an interesting. Again, here's more baseball. Don Brown, who was also a big baseball guy, was the head coach at like Rhode Island University, I think, at one point for baseball. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, like a long time ago. But it was the quarterback camp, and Jim Harbaugh is a big believer in the quarterback being a very versatile athlete, the best athlete in the school is what he says. You know, you put him on the swim team, he wins there. You put him on the baseball team, he's the first baseman or the pitcher, and he's leading the team in batting average. If he plays baseball or basketball, he gets 20 points a game and plays point guard or whatever. He just really likes the idea of his quarterbacks being well-rounded and good at all of those things. So he had Don Brown like smacking grounders at these quarterbacks, and they were fielding grounders out on Michigan's practice field, like again, and catching fly balls and stuff like that. So anyway, I got a really cool picture of Harbaugh with his arms like over a bat, like smiling real big, you know. So anyway, this is cool, man. Anybody who has a problem with this, get lost, shut it down for a little while, take a nap, go sleep in your basement, whatever. I don't know, dude. Whatever those people are doing, they need to check themselves a little bit, because this is just a pure thing with a family moment. And yeah, I mean, like, you know, if you or I go to a baseball game with our son and our dad, we're not going to get our photos taken. Like, that's all he wanted to do. He doesn't want to be there getting his picture taken. He's just at the park with his kid and his dad, man. So anyway, I thought it was cool. I like I said, as someone who's really close with my dad, and now I have a son, like it's awesome, man. It's pure. And on Memorial Weekend, like, that's what you do, man. Take me out to the ball game, man, and see what happens. Sure, they pounded a couple hot dogs and you know, watch the Tigers lose, right?
Yeah, and then
I actually don't know if the Tigers won or lost. So
I have no idea. I didn't even check the score of the game.
But yeah, I thought that was cool. You put up a quick story on it. 1.4 million followers on the Detroit Tigers official Twitter account taking a shot at Ohio, so we're all in favor of that. I thought that was just a cool thing. So anyway, we'll move on now to Michigan's 2022 quarterback situation in the recruiting world. I put up a story on this earlier today, finished that up, and it's really like a 3-horse race at this point. It's funny too, because I was looking back through our database of stories that I put up. I wrote a story before on the Michigan 2022 quarterback cycle, and it was 4 different guys who have nothing to do with Michigan at this point. So it's kind of been an up and down thing at quarterback. Michigan obviously has its guy in J.J. McCarthy in 2021. And so that's kind of that's something you deal with at quarterback that you don't really deal with at any other position. Like, if you land a superstar quarterback, it can be a little difficult to convince another quarterback worth his salt to come in and say, like, all right, well, I'm either going to ride the pine behind that guy, or I've got to battle him, and maybe I'm not good enough, and whatever. So it becomes kind of an interesting dynamic when you recruit a big timer like Michigan did in 2021 and J.J. McCarthy, to find a guy in 2022 who's comfortable with the situation and can look at the quarterback room and unfortunately see the offense. I mean, like, you know, let's be honest here. You quarterbacks want to throw the ball around and put up big numbers, and that ain't happening right now at Michigan.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, regardless of who Michigan's recruited, whether is that Ari in there chiming in? I saw that they swept the Yankees. So is it? I don't know if I don't know if it's Ari. I'll go with Ari. Shout out to you, because you've been participating here and
real
giving
active.
us good information. So appreciate it. But you know, in terms of whether or not somebody, you know, the picture they're looking at coming to Michigan, if you're a quarterback and you've got a high profile recruit like J.J. McCarthy on campus, I don't know whether that guy, if McCarthy's there, if he's not there, I don't know that it makes a difference to me. If I'm a big time quarterback, and I love Michigan football, I'm just not sure that Michigan is the place for me, because I haven't really, like, when's the last time you saw a quarterback absolutely ball out? And does it look like quarterbacks are developing and, you know, you're getting the most out of that talent during their time at Michigan? I'm just not sure you can say that. So yeah, I mean, we'll welcome all the talent we can get, but you know, even with a guy like McCarthy, it was nice to get him on campus, and I think there was a lot of excitement surrounding that. But now that he's here, they're still gonna have to develop him, no matter how far along he was when he got here, no matter what, you know, his recruiting ranking was prior to Michigan. They're still gonna have to get this kid ready to play, and we just haven't seen it yet. So I'm hopeful, but I still, if I'm a quarterback looking at Michigan, I don't know that Ann Arbor is going to be my first choice.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue it. It really is. I mean, that's why I think what I'm about to outline here, the 3 quarterbacks that Michigan is interested in, I mean, they're not scrubs. Don't get my words twisted at all, but these are not the elite of the elite when it comes to and actually the 2022 quarterback class is down a little bit. It's not real it's not real deep in terms of, like, you know, guys who look like can't miss, 5-star type guys. So that plays in a little bit. Of course, the best one in the entire class and the number one player in the country is Quinn Ewers, and he's committed to Ohio State. So there you go, just another stick, another stick with the needle for Michigan fans who follow recruiting. But Michigan is in on 3 guys, and I like a lot about all of them. It's one of the things I wrote in the article is that they're different enough. They're all different enough from each other, but they each have something that they do like extremely, extremely well. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. So I'm going to go guy by guy, and kind of for you who's not a recruiting nut, and I'm a little bit removed from it, but this is something that I have a lot of experience in and have followed it for a long time. Not so much a couple of these guys because they're new offers, but just kind of taking a look at who Michigan is pursuing and kind of get your feedback as to who you think you might like to see in the winged helmet. And again, people listening and following along, you can comment as well, and we'll kind of discuss that as we go. The first one, who was just offered a few days ago, a week and a half ago, Conor Harrell, 6'1", 191 pounds, out of Alabaster, Alabama, Thompson High School. Led his high school to a state championship last year, 14-0, was the Gatorade Player of the Year in Alabama, and is very, very well-rounded. Phenomenal athlete, but a great passer. Can really make plays when when it gets broken down a little bit. Seems to be very, very accurate, and can run, but is a really good athlete, but looks more like a throw first kind of guy. So that is Conor Harrell. So keep some thoughts about him. Next is Nate Johnson. Now, this is a guy that Michigan has been interested in for much longer, and even still, it's not a long, long time. When you think of recruiting, sometimes these guys have relationships with the staff that go back 3 and 4 years. That's not the case with any of these quarterbacks. A change in quarterbacks coach, obviously, a change in offensive philosophy over the last couple of years. Now you've got a new offensive coordinator helping out Josh Gaddis and Sharon Moore. So there's some of that to keep in mind. But Nate Johnson, 6'2", 183 pounds, out of Clovis, California. And this kid is a freak athlete. This kid played just as much wide receiver almost as he does quarterback. And not long ago, earlier this month, in fact, he laid down the fastest 100-meter time in the state of California for the year so far, 10.49. So this kid can go. He's got the juice. He is dual threat all the way. And I like him because, if it's not working out perfectly at quarterback, you can put him somewhere else. I mean, you got 10.49 speed. That's he might be the fastest wide receiver in the room if he played wide receiver right now. I think that's actually faster than what Roman Wilson ran the 100-meter in. So this kid can really go. And again, Michigan has been on him a little bit longer. He's officially visiting Michigan in a couple of weeks, June 11th through the 13th. So there's some very real interest there. And then last but not least, the most recent offer, Justin Martin, another California kid out of Inglewood High School, 6'4", 210 pounds. So the biggest of the 3, a good athlete, but not a run first guy. This is a long, lanky, whip for an arm kid. I mean, he can chuck it 70, 80 yards down the field. That's this kid's strength. That's what he does. All 3 of these guys, winners. All 3 of these guys, big numbers in high school. Conor Harrell, probably the most well-rounded, maybe closest to being ready. Nate Johnson, the freaky athlete, higher upside as a dual threat guy, and Justin Martin, more of the really whip it around the field, tons of arm strength guy. And again, Michigan been in on Nate Johnson for longer than any of the other 2. So hearing all that, Chris, I know what you like usually, but what do you hear when you hear about these 3 guys?
I really like Nate Johnson. I really like, speed is one of those things that I just feel like you can never have enough of it on your roster. And you made a great point that if it doesn't, if things aren't really working out well at the quarterback position, the good news is speed travels. So you can put him anywhere on the field and you can find a way to make him effective. And I would really, really love to see a true dual threat quarterback back in Ann Arbor making plays. I feel like, especially within the Big Ten Conference, you can do a lot of damage as a dual threat quarterback. So if I had to pick one out of the 3, I'd go with Nate Johnson. The only thing I don't like about Nate Johnson is the fact that he's from California and Michigan. Yeah. When it comes to Michigan and California, things just, I don't know. It doesn't seem to work out all that great, at least not as of late.
Well, that's the unfortunate thing with all 3 of these guys. 2 are from California, 1's from Alabama. That typically isn't a footprint for Michigan. They try to have a presence everywhere. I mean, Michigan's a national program. If they want a kid from, Samoa, we saw that they'll they'll go recruit a kid from American Samoa. Like they're not bound by anything geographically. But I agree with you. California kids are hard to pull away from home. It's a long way. Even a flight out there is a long trip. Down south, a lot of those kids stay down south. I will say this about a couple of these guys though. Justin Martin, by the way, is currently committed to Cal. But there's legitimate interest there. I put something about that in the story. You can read that at WolverineDigest.com. But even before he was offered, he was already talking about, like, damn, if that comes through, like, that's going to give me something to really think about. Nate Johnson, again, Michigan has been on him for a long time. He's coming for his official visit in a couple weeks. Wouldn't surprise me if he committed, honestly, during that trip. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then Conor Harrell is like a high flying academic kid, like a 4.5 adjusted GPA. Again, more well-rounded, more day one ready as a quarterback, and also a really good athlete. Like you talk about Nate Johnson having like elite speed. Conor Harrell can go too. He's just not. I personally wouldn't say, like, if he doesn't quite work out at quarterback, he's not going to play receiver.
Sure.
Nate Johnson can be that guy. He plays receiver at a high level in high school, and with sub 10.5 speed in the 100, like, I mean, you're one of the fastest high school kids in the country. So there's no doubt about it that he has enough speed to play somewhere else if it doesn't work out at quarterback. But he's a really good quarterback. I mean, that's not to say that it won't work out at quarterback. It's just he has that speed to fall back on to maybe look at something else if that's what ends up happening. So I'm with you. I think I like all three. I said that in the article. There's something I like about all of them. Justin Martin isn't as fast as the other two, but he is a good athlete. He can move the chains with his legs, and he's got a monstrous arm. Again, Conor Harrell is a little bit kind of the more day one ready kind of kid, and just playing against top competition in Alabama. He plays in the 7A, which is the largest designation in Alabama. They won the state title last year on some crazy heroics towards the end. They were down like 29-18 with like a minute to go and won somehow, like blocked a punt and then did something else crazy. But anyway, I digress a little bit. Just learning about these guys a little bit more. I've known the names, but now I'm diving into them a little bit. But, if Nate Johnson's on your wish list, you might get your wish, because I think Michigan's in the best spot with him as well. So definitely something to keep an eye on for these three guys. Again, Conor Harrell out of Alabama, Nate Johnson and Justin Martin both out of California, and Martin is currently committed to California. Just picked up his offer from Michigan a couple of days ago, and I think is probably going to take a look and give Michigan a pretty serious glance as he comes down the stretch here. So again, these guys are what? 6 months away from the early signing period in December. Right. So there's some time. Michigan's going to have to put a product on the field before, these guys put pen to paper. And that's ultimately the most important thing in my book. I mean, you can have a great visit. You can bond with the coaches. You can get along with the guys you're going to be playing with. But if Michigan comes out there and takes a dump on the 50, it's going to be real hard to sell what Michigan's trying to do at any position. So, we'll see how that plays out as Michigan tries to find its guy in 2022. All right. I'm going to try to keep it in check here, Chris. I'm not an angry guy.
Is this the one? Is this the one that you really take issue with?
It's not like a huge issue for me. I just think people are dumb, dude. Like, so many people are just, they just spout off things and it just doesn't make any sense. So I want to talk about the world of the transfer quarterback and the stigma that comes along with it. And you can give lots of opinions on this too. And I think we view this similarly. I might feel a little stronger about it than you, because I know you've mentioned in the past, like, and I don't disagree, how it would be great for Jim Harbaugh to identify a guy, recruit him, sign him, develop him, and have him be the guy. Like, that would be great. But at the end of the day, I'll just say it like this. If you don't want Alan Bowman to play simply because he's a transfer quarterback, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. Because if he's the best guy and he's the one that's going to make Michigan the best team, what the hell does it matter where he came from? I just don't understand. Like, this discussion happened a lot 2 seasons ago when 3 of the 4 quarterbacks in the playoff were transfers. Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, and Jalen Hurts. All were at a school that they did not start with. And not to mention, it's going to become more and more commonplace as the transfer portal becomes more of a, and now guys don't have to sit out anymore. You can just find your new school and play right away. So this isn't going away. And I just don't understand the level of anger that people seem to have about transfer quarterbacks. Like, I guess if I had to pick one route, sure, I'd pick the route that of the guy who picked Michigan from day one, came in as a youngster, learned and became the guy. Yes, I would pick that versus finding a guy in the transfer portal to come in. But at the end of the day, if you can go out and find a transfer guy that's better than anybody else you have, you play that guy and you play him without hesitation. And for anybody who opposes Alan Bowman, who's transferring in from Texas Tech and may not end up being the starter, it very well could be Cade McNamara, and who knows? Maybe J.J. McCarthy figures something out and that talent shows up in fall camp and he's just undeniably better. But if you don't want Alan Bowman just because he's a transfer, you suck. And that's all I have to say about that. That's it.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say. Part of my input here is going to be playing devil's advocate. I'll start off by saying I think a lot of the distaste for transfer quarterbacks is the result of how people felt things went down with Dylan McCaffrey. I feel like there is a good portion of the fan base that view Dylan McCaffrey as like, this great quarterback in waiting who, and the guy, to his credit, he did pay his dues. I think he was with the program for 3 years. He had some opportunities. Unfortunately, injury sort of, threw a wrench into everything. But listen, you're right. Transfer quarterbacks are going to be part of the new norm. And if you have an issue with transfer quarterbacks,
they already are.
They already are. But given this new rule, this is going to really be a game changer where guys are going to shift around if they think they've got a better opportunity and a better fit somewhere else. And you got to just get used to it. I do at the same time have a bit of a concern as to what it does to the locker room. So
you're an idiot, basically.
Well, yes, I'm an idiot. I am. And I could call my wife down here. She'll agree with you. But, you take a guy like Cade McNamara, who's been in the program, who's spent, the last however many months and years developing relationships with these guys. And my hunch is that there is some camaraderie there. They want Cade McNamara to be the guy. And then you have somebody else come in from the inside or from the outside and potentially take that spot away. I do wonder, as that happens more and more often, what that does to a locker room, if that kind of prevents, a synergy or, whatever word you want to put on it.
Good word.
I think everybody wants to see Jim Harbaugh develop a quarterback. The fact that he hasn't done it yet is playing a part in how people feel about the transfer quarterback. Because for those people, they think the transfer quarterback has been what's prevented a Harbaugh quarterback from blossoming, whether it's McCaffrey, whether it's, Brandon Peters, whatever name you want to put on it. It's because we keep bringing in transfers. So they don't view it as a Harbaugh coaching issue. They view it as a transfer issue, preventing their own guys from being able to do what they came here to do.
Yeah, that's a fair argument. I mean, it's one of the things we've talked about at length. There's just the unsolvable mystery of why Jim Harbaugh hasn't been able to find a guy and develop him and turn him into a stud, because he was that guy. He was a really good quarterback in college and the pros for a long time. And Andrew Luck at Stanford, everybody just thought that was going to not magically, but automatically just be what he did at Michigan. It just hasn't worked out that way. So I will agree with you. There's a little bit of a shell shock there where Michigan fans are just like, this again, because it hasn't happened with one of Harbaugh's own guys. But I can assure you, and I get what you're saying, and I think it's true. I think you're right. Guys who have been through it with Cade and are entering year 3 with Cade McNamara and know that he's been a Michigan guy and that he's put in the work and the blood, sweat, and tears out on the field, and they're brothers, man. Like they see each other as brothers, and now you've got Alan Bowman coming in. He's going to try to win the job, and maybe he does. Let's say he does win the job. I can assure you, if Alan Bowman leads Michigan to a 30-point win over Washington during week 2, nobody gives a damn about what Cade McNamara's feelings are. I'm sorry. It won't be there. There's not going to be anybody saying like, but Cade's my boy. He needs to be in the game. Like that's not going to happen.
Right.
And so, and again, I have no idea if Cade McNamara will be the starter or if it's Alan Bowman or, if it somehow ends up being JJ McCarthy or if we see Dan Villari a good bit because he brings something. Like, we have no idea. Again, we've done quite a few discussions about what we think might happen. And I think, are you still Team Cade a little bit more, or are you thinking Bowman might be the guy?
I'm thinking Bowman becomes the guy at some point. I think Cade gets the first series week 1. I think Cade trots out on the field week 1, so
Okay.
he will be the starting quarterback. But I do see Bowman coming in, and it might be week 2 against Washington. And Jesus, think about if you're Alan Bowman, you're coming to Ann Arbor, week 2 under the lights. You've got 115,000 people in the stands, and you got to come in and do something with the game. That talk about a pressure situation. But I think Bowman will eventually be the guy.
I will say this: talk about shooting down or destroying some synergy. If you go that route, I mean, you can kiss Cade McNamara goodbye as far as right.
And I think that's how look at the quarterback room right now. How many of those guys do you think are going to finish their career at Michigan? Villari is a big question mark to me. I could, and I'm just speculating here, but obviously I could see him maybe going back out east, try to get some playing time, or depending on how he's used this year. I don't know, but you look at McNamara, Villari, McCarthy. And you got Bowman coming in. I think it's just some of these guys are going to go elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it seems inevitable. I mean, quarterback is the one position where it's one guy. It's one guy who plays, and so if you're not that guy, you want to be that guy. I mean, it's really not. It doesn't have to be any deeper than that. I mean, it has felt a little deeper than that in some cases. With Dylan McCaffrey, it wasn't like he was clearly benched and never going to see time. Joe Milton, I mean, dude, he was the guy last year. Now he's gone.
Yeah,
that clearly wasn't a thing of him just being like, well, I'm never going to see the field. I'm out of here.
Right.
That's not what was happening with him. So I agree with you on that as well. It's like, there are things that go into it, but at the end of the day, it's playing time. Guys want to play.
Yeah.
Guys are confident in themselves. They think, and they're not wrong, they think that they might be able to find a situation that might even really allow them to blossom and make the NFL maybe. I mean, like that's the situation that some guys find themselves in where Joe Burrow is going to forever be the talking point when it comes to this, because before he went to LSU, like there were talks of, who knows if he would have ever even played at Ohio State. And that's crazy to think about because of how he lit it up at LSU. And then he became the number 1 pick in the NFL, and he looks pretty damn good there too. Obviously he tore up his knee last year, but before that, he was well on his way to winning Rookie of the Year, or at least being in the discussion. So it's a really interesting thing, and the transfer portal is going to become even more and more of a normalcy, and guys are going to move and jump ship and be playing right away. I mean, we're going to see it in week 2 with Giles Jackson. He's going to be playing for Washington, and we're going to see it with other guys that have left Michigan this year that they might suit up against the Wolverines. Zach Carpenter, we might see. For Indiana, we might see Ben Van Sumeren for Michigan State. There's going to be a few guys that are you're going to be like, wait a minute, I know that guy. And so I'm just on the quarterback thing though. Listen, if he's good enough to win, you like him. That's it.
Yeah, that's really that's all it's about. In an ideal world, you would obviously prefer that you were recruiting your own quarterbacks, playing your own quarterbacks, and you were doing so well at that position that you just didn't have a need to go out and search for anybody in the transfer portal. That's in a perfect world. There's not many programs out.
Who's existing in a perfect world? Clemson. Clemson's doing exactly that. It's just guy after guy. Oh, Trevor Lawrence is there. We'll get a 5-star this year and another one next year.
Sure.
That's what's happening.
Ohio State's really not even existing in that world because they went out and got Dwayne Haskins Justin Fields. They went out and got Justin Fields, and he lit it up, right? So even a program like Ohio State is going to try to capitalize on the transfer portal at the quarterback position. The only reason it's an issue at Michigan is because year in and year out, our quarterbacks just aren't performing at the level that most would expect them to perform. That's not because of transfers. That's not because of, whatever other, it's a development issue. It's a recruiting issue. And if the guys that we have here aren't able to win the starting job outright, I want whoever is the best guy out there. If that's Bowman, I will gladly take Bowman if it means I can sit back on a fall Saturday and watch Michigan whoop whoever's ass it is.
Yeah. And unfortunately, not surprisingly, it looks like Ohio State is going to go the traditional route and have a run of about 4 or 5 years here of stud quarterback play. Again, though, it's like you said, there's only one guy. So you've got CJ Stroud right now, who's looking like potentially the leader in the clubhouse to be Ohio State's starting quarterback. Then you have Jack Miller, who was a high 4-star kid out of Arizona, not mobile. And I think that's right. I don't, if you're not mobile, I don't know why you would go to Ohio State personally, but Hassan Haskins. Dwayne Haskins had a ton of success, and he wasn't a mobile guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you've got C.J. Stroud, you've got Jack Miller, you've got Kyle McCord, the true freshman who was in the same class and ranked slightly above or right around the same level as McCarthy. And then they have Quinn Ewers, the number 1 player in the country, committed the year after that. So like
somebody's transferring.
You're not all those guys aren't going to play. They're close enough in age to where, yes, maybe. I mean, dude, really think about it. Maybe 3 of those 4 guys could finish their career somewhere else because Quinn Ewers is going to be there next year, and everybody says he's like the next guy that was like Trevor Lawrence-esque in terms of how effortlessly he throws the ball and how accurate he can be, and he's a better athlete than you think, and things like that. So, again, the rich get richer in college football. When you win, more people are interested. When more people are interested, even more people become interested. It just like it snowballs. You got to be able to break through somehow, and that's where it starts with, hiring the right guys, finding a few gems, putting guys in a position to succeed, and putting up big time numbers. The top programs are doing it year in and year out with whoever they get. And sure, I mean, when you get the best players, like that's easier to do. But at some point, you've got to be able to break through a little bit. Clemson was able to do it over the last handful of years, and Alabama's been sustaining it, and now Ohio State is sustaining it. We saw it with LSU, like, perfect storm of all of that stuff coming together. An able quarterback, tons of talent everywhere, the right guy calling plays, and it just turned into this beautiful season for LSU. And now last year they looked pretty mediocre once you took some of those things away. So you got to find it, you got to get it to grow and blossom, and then you got to sustain it. And there's really only a few programs in the country doing that, and Michigan's just not one of them right now. I think, and you and I both think that they can be. Like,
absolutely.
They have enough things working for them that they can be that.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Like, you and I are in the same boat that we don't, whatever you want to say about academics or morals or any of that stuff, we're not really buying the fact that that's holding Michigan back from being a legitimate national title contender. It's just not.
And I'm going to put a bow on this whole thing right here with this one statement to close our topic. You know how you can do that in a hurry sometimes? You find the right transfer quarterback. That's how you do it. That's how you freaking do it. Because if Ohio State doesn't have Justin Fields over the last 2 years, they're still good. They're not what they were. Like, that was like, the heavens opened up and brought Justin Fields to Columbus for them. Like, and I knew as soon as he announced he was going there, like, he's freaking awesome. Like, I saw him in high school. You could have made an argument coming out of high school that he was better than Trevor Lawrence. Like, I mean, that's how good he freaking was. So it's crazy to me that he actually didn't play at Georgia. They've had some little quarterback back and forth now since he's been gone. I mean, can you imagine if they could go back and rewind a little bit and stick with Justin Fields? Yeah. Because they have, there's another big time program. They're going to be leaning on a transfer this year, and JT Daniels, right, who was a top flight 5-star kid out at USC. Didn't work out there. He goes to Georgia, and now Georgia's probably preseason top 6 or something. I don't know. That's where they'll be at. So, yeah, the transfer quarterback hate is weird. It needs to go away. It's here to stay. And again, if Michigan, I don't know if Alan Bowman is this, but can you imagine if it just suddenly clicks for him and he becomes one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten? Everything that Michigan tries to do this year is suddenly not so crazy.
Well, and the people who are angry about a transfer quarterback will no longer be angry about a transfer quarterback. So that's really all it's going to take is just whoever it is, wherever it is, however it comes, somebody's got to be successful and has to get Michigan football to a breakthrough year. And that's what's been sorely missing these past 7 years and has been missing for a long time. And the longer you go without being able to do that, like you said, the rich continue to get richer and the gap just continues to grow. Like, you got to close the deal on the recruiting trail. And then when you're on the football field and you've got a shot to win those games that you might not win otherwise, you've got to find a way to win them. And that's how you change the trajectory of the program. And right now, Michigan's just treading water. And so, side note, Bowman, how many years of eligibility? Is it just 1 year, or is he coming in with 2?
Weirdly, he might have 3. Because
so for sure, out of the group that we have there now,
it's two for sure. Two for sure.
So we got Bowman, McCarthy, Villari, and McNamara. you're at least one of those guys will not be, I would expect, won't be in Ann Arbor in 2022, if not two of them. And I mean, that's just kind of, I think, what you're going to see at this position is you recruit talent, some talent leaves, you dip into the transfer portal, and you're constantly cycling through until you find something that works.
Yeah, and I mean, look, man, and this is not meant to be a blast Cade McNamara thing, because I actually like him quite a bit. I thought he was a really good high school player. You know, he has all those records in Nevada. Like, that doesn't happen by accident. But like, I think we kind of know basically what you're getting with Cade McNamara. I mean, we saw him play enough, you know, a little bit last year. He just doesn't come off to me as like the elevate everyone around him to a new level kind of guy. And like, that's fine. You can get away with that if the rest of your team is stacked and performing well. Michigan's not there right now. I don't necessarily think Alan Bowman's that guy either, but we don't know. Like, you know, based on what we saw at Texas Tech, I would say he's not. I would put him in, you know, if there were like tiers, I'd have him and Cade in the same tier. And so that's why I just don't know who's going to be the guy, and how it looks best is still up in the air. It's still a mystery to me.
I only defer to Bowman just because of the experience. Like, the guy's been in the trenches. He's played the game for a while now. He's had some monster games against some legitimate competition, and you never know how it's going to click in a new city with a new team. You never know how it's going to work. You know, we haven't seen much of Cade, but Cade isn't, I wouldn't necessarily put him, I definitely wouldn't put him in the same category as like a Justin Fields or a Trevor Lawrence. And so he's not at that level. And if he comes out and balls out, I love him to death. Absolutely. I want him to do well, but if it's not him, I just want whoever the best guy is out there throwing the ball.
I'm trying to think of some guys in the Big Ten this year. Would you take Michael Penix over everybody on Michigan's roster, quarterback for Indiana?
Yes.
Would you take?
I'd take Maryland.
Would you take Talia Tagovailoa from Maryland? Would you take?
In a heartbeat.
Would you take Sean Clifford from Penn State?
Ooh.
I think he's right in that same area.
Yeah, I mean, again, would lean on the experience. He's a veteran.
But like ability, talent wise, he's Alan Bowman, Cade McNamara. I think he's a solid quarterback. He's gonna move the chains. He's gonna make some plays.
Taylor Martinez, maybe. You know, I mean, the guy had seemed like he had a really high ceiling.
A little more dynamic, but I just haven't seen it from him.
Yeah,
you know, he's far more athletic than the rest of those guys, but I haven't seen it from him. Michigan State, I wouldn't, their quarterback situation is not any better. Ohio State obviously is, but we haven't seen those guys yet. But on paper, they look really good.
If I could do what I really wanted to do, and I wrote an article about this maybe 2 or 3 months back, I would just start McCarthy. Hey. I would just roll with it because, look, he's a highly rated quarterback, arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the class when he came out. I think the general consensus is that he's the future. It's only a matter of time. And I would rather, and I've said this a number of times, I don't trust guys at Michigan waiting their turn on the sideline. I haven't seen any evidence that they get better during that time. And so rather than see that same thing play out with a guy like JJ McCarthy, I'd rather put him on the field week 1 and just say, hey, you are our guy, go make it happen. And we're committed to making it work.
That would, here's the deal. The only reason why you're not going to get much pushback on that is because of everything we just talked about. Because you don't know what you're getting with McNamara, really, and you don't really know what you're getting with Bowman. I mean, you can put on his tape from Texas Tech, and you can look at his numbers: the 5,000 yards, the 33 touchdowns, the starts, multiple starts as a true freshman. But like, it's all different now. He's not in an air raid scheme anymore. He's not going up against passing defenses in the Big 12. He's learning a new system. He's got new guys around him. So it's all a question mark. I wrote that. I did a 3-series article. Here's the reasons why Bowman starts. Here's the reasons why McNamara starts. Here's the reasons why McCarthy starts. And in that McCarthy article, I wrote exactly that. Here you go, young buck. Just figure it out. You're going to be the guy at some point. That's what we brought you here for. That's what a lot of fans want. It seems like you certainly could drum up some excitement if you start McCarthy.
Very few people would be angry at Jim Harbaugh for starting JJ McCarthy.
And then at the end of the day, it might not even be much worse than it would have been if you go with one of the other guys, like, because those guys haven't shown that they're like again, that they're program elevators or that they're elite at anything, why not give McCarthy the shot?
And then guess what you're getting in 2022? You're getting JJ McCarthy with a solid year of Big Ten football under his belt, ready to go into year 2. To me, that is the ideal situation coming back in 2022, is that kid's already got a full year of experience under his belt.
Man,
but then you're already, you might be writing off 2021. Who knows?
And with Matt Campbell running the show, dude, it would be a hell of a show to watch. No, I don't know. We'll see, man. We'll see. Oh, jeez. Oh boy. But anyway, look, man, I find every day we talk about some more stuff, I find myself more excited. You and I are about to hit the road and check out some camps and see some real football. Tomorrow is, for people who are listening on the pod, it's June 1st. Things are opening back up. Camps are opening up. Official visits and campuses on schools for prospects to visit are opening up. A lot of businesses I've already seen. I've been bopping around this weekend a little bit. You already don't have to wear a mask if you're vaccinated.
Yeah, it's been great.
Which is dope for me. And it's coming, man. It's getting back to normal. You're starting to see a lot of basketball arenas are full capacity for the playoffs right now. It's starting to feel pretty good, man. And when football becomes front and center, we're going to be right there, man. And it's going to be
special, man. That week 1 is going to be special. It's going to be something to just be a part of that and have everybody back. I think there's just going to be a lot of joy all the way around.
Yep, looking forward to it a lot. Also looking forward to Wednesday, man. We'll get to talk about some stuff that we see in person. We got a couple, at least one camp we're going to at Eastern Michigan coming up. Michigan is hosting a big visit day on June the 2nd for a lot of local kids in the Detroit area, so we'll be talking about that as well. Got some real stuff coming, man, and that's exciting too. I know June and July can be a little bit thin in terms of content, but there are at least going to be some real developments to talk about because things are opening back up and getting back to normal a little bit. So hopefully everybody enjoyed today's stream. Listen on the podcast. Check out WolverineDigest.com. We'll continue to have content there, and we will be back to talk more on Wednesday. Thanks for listening, guys.